Welcome into Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Today on the show, are the Falcons in the mix for a new Carr? Projections for Michael Harris, and is AJ hitting that rookie wall? It's all next. It's Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery, Locked On Sports Atlanta.
This is Hittin Hard with Jon Chuckery, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, and it starts now.
Hittin Hard is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. We ask you to head to YouTube.com, put Locked On Sports Atlanta into your search browser. When you get there, hit that subscribe button as we grow towards 6,000 folks. Leave us a comment. Free and available to download on all of your favorite podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your favorites from. We can be found there. Roku and Amazon Fire. Yes, we are available on those platforms as well. And then give me a follow on my personal Twitter page at JMCH316. So are the Atlanta Falcons in the mix for a new Carr, as Derek Carr was cut by the whatever they are, the Oakland, the Las Vegas, the Los Angeles, the El Segundo Raiders yesterday. And look, there's been some speculation about, are the Falcons in the mix for one of these bigger quarterbacks, right? I mean, Lamar, Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr. Here's what I'll say about Derek Carr, okay? And this may not be fair, but remember, perception has the same effect as truth, okay? My perception of Derek Carr is he's a loser. Well, he's done all this. Okay. Has he advanced the Raiders franchise in any way? The best season that he had was that 13-3 year where they had Amari Cooper, they had Khalil Mack. They were so good, right? And I think they won the division and all that and the other. And I don't remember what year it is, but it's been like 100 years ago. And he was hurt, missed the end of the year, and they had to start Connor Cook in the playoffs. He's had one playoff game. One. He's played in one playoff game. That was 2 seasons ago when they lost the Bengals. On the way to that Super Bowl run, they lost to the Bengals. He's had one playoff game. So you talk about a guy who's going to cost you a lot of money, okay? Whether it's, free agent dollars, or if it costs you compensation, is he an upgrade over what we have right now on the roster? Is he an upgrade over Marcus Mariota, Desmond Ridder, and maybe Felipe Franks if he's considered a quarterback or not, but, he's an emergency quarterback? Yes, he's a better player than any one of those 3 guys. But he doesn't advance your franchise. Your franchise, I think he's 63 and 79 as a starter. And that's not all his fault and things like that. But here's the thing. This is what I talk about with quarterbacks in the NFL. Okay? There is something innate to winning. There is something about winning in the NFL. Advancing your franchise. Being that stabilizing force at that position, at the most important position that you can have in the NFL. Can you win with these guys, or do you win in spite of guys and things like that? There are winners and there are losers in the NFL. Sam Bradford's a loser in the NFL. I think Derek Carr's a loser in the NFL. That doesn't advance your franchise. So you pay a guy, because if you think that, he's a franchise guy for the Raiders and all that, and he's a $40 million quarterback, you pay because you don't have a better option than those guys, right? If you're the Raiders, you went through that whole process and that whole cycle, and it's like, okay, what are we getting for a $40 million quarterback? What's our franchise really doing? The Those kinds of guys get your coach fired because you pay them $40 million a year and they don't win. And yeah, they put up stats, 4,000 yards and 25 touchdowns, but they don't make the plays that win games. And that's what despite the stats and the numbers and things like that in the NFL, it's all about winning. It's all about when I go to ESPN.com and I click on the standings button, okay, and I look through the franchises that win are the ones that matter. There's no BCS poll. There's not style points. There's no Harris poll, right? There's not AP voters. You win or you lose in the NFL. And Derek Carr is a guy that for his price and what he costs, because he's not playing for, he's not going to play for $3 or $4 or $5 million. He's going to want starting money, starting caliber money, whatever that is. $30, $40 million. I mean, he was a $40 million quarterback when he was, with the Raiders in Oakland or Vegas or LA or El Segundo or wherever the hell their franchise is nowadays. So I don't want anything to do with Derek Carr. Like, those guys don't advance your franchise. They don't do anything for your franchise. I'd rather roll the dice on a Desmond Ridder and pay $4 or $5 million for a Jacoby Brissett and see what I've got. Or draft a CJ Stroud. Again, I don't have to have a $40 million quarterback to go 63 and 79. So, again, I know Derek Carr, he's been linked to the Saints and things like that. Okay, good. Maybe, with all due respect, I would love for him to go to New Orleans. I would love if he went down to New Orleans and was a part of the Saints organization, because he wouldn't advance their organization. Yeah, he'll put up stats and numbers and things like that. He's a 4,000-yard quarterback. He can throw 25 touchdowns, and then you're 6-11, right? That's what your franchise is. You get all those. It's Kirk Cousins. It's Sam Bradford. There's just something about that group of quarterbacks in the NFL that never get over the hump. They never take their franchise to the next level. And look, those guys are few and far between, right? What Pat Mahomes has been able to do has been absolutely amazing. That, to take that franchise to the heights, and look, they're the number one franchise in the NFL, coming off another Super Bowl victory. He's the best player in the NFL, but those guys are few and far between. And you start paying a lot of money. Look, let me put it like this. Derek Carr hasn't had a third of the career that Matt Ryan has. He may throw for more yards and stats and stuff like that, but he hasn't done 1/3, probably not even 10% of what Matt Ryan did for this franchise. Matt Ryan advanced the franchise, had the most success in the history of the organization, took him to a Super Bowl, multiple conference championship games, MVP of the league. Derek Carr's not done any of that. So why would I want a guy that's a $40 million quarterback that doesn't advance my franchise? Even the Raiders said, this really isn't getting us anywhere. We're running through coaches left and right, and we're not advancing and things like that. Maybe we can, maybe Pat McGloin or somebody like that's not such a bad option. Whatever it is. Or go draft a quarterback and draft another guy. So, no, listen, I don't want anything to do with Derek Carr. Don't want him around the roster. Don't want him around this franchise. We can certainly come up with, 80 better options than what Derek Carr brings. I want to talk about my friends over at FanDuel. Listen, FanDuel is the number one sports book in America. And right now we've got a deal where we've got your no sweat first bet where you can get as much as $1,000 in bonus bets. $1,000 in bonus bets. Download the FanDuel Sports app. Safe, secure, super easy to use. You can bet on everything from money lines to props to all kinds of things in the certainly in the NBA right now that, we're coming up to the All-Star game and we're past the midway point of the season. You can certainly have a chance to get bigger payouts with the same game parlay. So you can combine bets to get a bigger payout with that same game parlay. So here's what you do. You go to FanDuel.com/lockedon, FanDuel.com/lockedon, LOCKEDON, and get the no sweat first bet for your chance that you can get as much as $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. $1,000 if your first bet doesn't win, potentially in bonus bets. Go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook betting partner of the NBA. And we also ask you to check out Locked On Sports Today. Make that your second listen. Biggest stories of the day, instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day, available Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you get all of your favorites from. So Michael Harris, certainly rookie of the year, certainly a guy that the Falcons the Braves. I can't even speak of all the different teams here. Certainly that the Braves are looking at taking another big step, and certainly had a remarkable year for the Atlanta Braves. What are some of the projections that Michael Harris, could potentially have for a full season in Major League Baseball? Well, look, certainly one of the biggest surprises from Michael Harris was the power that he had. He had 19 homers in 114 games. You look at his numbers in the minors. He played 197 games and had 14 homers in 828 plate appearances, and yet had 19 homers in 441 plate appearances. So it was a remarkable season for Michael Harris. Here's what I'll say about Michael Harris. Here's the one thing that I would like for him to work on, and especially because he most likely will probably hit at the top of the order. So he won't hit leadoff, but I certainly think that he could be a prime candidate to be the number 2 hitter on this team, replacing Dansby Swanson, a guy who can plenty of speed. He can run around the bases and things like that. I would like to see Michael Harris work on his on-base ability. That's the one thing that, whether drawing more walks or getting on base more, he finished last season with a .339 on-base percentage, okay? The more that can get to .350 and above makes you a more valuable hitter at the top of the order. That's that magic number, right? Is .350 and above for on-base guys. Ronnie the last couple of years, save for last season, but he's been closer to that 400 range. And it's been a different approach for Ronnie hitting at the top of the order. So I do think that Michael Harris's home run production takes a step back. And it's not like he's going to be a 3 or 4 home run hitter. When I talk about taking a step back over a course of 162 game season, maybe 12 to 14 home runs versus the 19 that he had. But I certainly think that he can have his stolen base numbers go up, because with these, have you seen those new bases that are out there? Have you seen the pictures of the enlarged base now that they're all the way around? Look, if Michael Harris and Ronald Acuna are at the top of the order, brother, I'm running those guys like crazy. And believe me, it's little finite things that make the difference. And the size of those bases, you get an extra 3 inches all the way around, you certainly have a chance to steal more bases. So, he was a 20 stolen base guy last year. So if I'm the Braves, I'm sending Michael Harris. When he's on base, I'm sending Michael Harris. And that's why it becomes more of a premium to get himself on base. I think his home run total goes down a little bit. I think his batting average probably takes a little bit of a step back, but still, look, he hit .297 last year. That was a remarkable feat that he played so well and he hit so well. Probably not expected. Do I think that he's going to take a big step backward? No. I still think that he's going to have some power. He's going to be still a pretty good hitter, maybe in that 280, 290 kind of range. But if you can just figure out a little bit more of his on-base average, then he becomes a prime, candidate for a top-of-the-order guy. And he'll certainly steal lots of bases. And the other thing that I really think that, and I'm going to go ahead and, what is today? February 15th. Okay. On February 15th, I'm going to go ahead and make a proclamation. I'm going to say this about Michael Harris. Michael Harris is going to win the Gold Glove this year. Certainly could have been in the mix for the Gold Glove last year. Obviously, the amount of games played and things like that, 114 games played and being called up late and being a rookie and things like that. The Gold Glove is as much of a legacy award and different things like that, right? Like, the Ichiros and the Fred Lynns and stuff like that come along, are few and far between. But certainly, and I think the Astros shortstop, won the Gold Glove last year as a rookie. But certainly Michael Harris could have been in the mix for all of that. I think this year, playing a full season and making the kind of plays that he does, that he's going to be, and with that arm strength, I think that he's going to be a Gold Glove center fielder this year. I think that he's going to be a guy that wins the Gold Glove. So I'll make that proclamation here on February 15th of 2023, and we'll see how that plays out. And I'm sure if he doesn't win the Gold Glove, everybody will come back and, futz at me and stuff like that. But anyway, but look, I think Michael Harris is a 12 to 14 home run guy. I think the power goes back a little bit. I think he'll have ample opportunity to drive in runs, because if he does hit second, he's got Ronnie in front of him. I think Ronnie's going to have a big year. I think he's got a full season of being healthy and getting back in the mix. And, he'll have a big year where he gets on base and hits the home runs and things like that. But Michael Harris can do a lot of damage. And here's the big thing I'll say about Michael Harris is that he'll steal a lot of bases, and he's got the potential to score a crap ton of runs. He's got the potential to be a 100-run scoring guy, and he should be. I mean, when you're hitting second in that lineup with Riley and Olsen and everybody else that's going to be hitting behind you, he should score a whole lot of runs. So if he can just find a little bit better on-base percentage, if he can get closer to that 350 range, and look, he's not going to draw a crap ton of walks, but just draw enough walks that you make yourself valuable in that 2 spot. Even Dansby did a good job in the couple of seasons that he was hitting in that 2nd spot of finding a way to get on base more, right? Because that's the approach when you hit 1 and 2 is different than when you're hitting, more toward the bottom of the order, and even through the middle of the order. Those 2 spots have a premium on base percentage. And if you can be standing on first, second base, whatever like that, for Riley and Olsen and all those guys to drive you all in, then that makes his position even more valuable in the lineup. So I think Michael Harris scores a ton of runs. I think he steals a ton of bases. I think his power goes down a little bit. His batting average is down just a little bit. But certainly I think he's going to be in line to be a premium player, and I'm going to call it right now that he's going to win the Gold Glove. I want to talk about my friends over at Built Bar. Listen, Built.com. Head there today. Check out all of the different flavors. Look, we're all looking for, at this, beginning point of the year to get ourselves in a healthier state and a healthier frame of mind. Built.com has all of the products that you need. Check out their extensive line of protein bars, the protein-infused marshmallow puffs, all the different flavors that they have. If you're looking for that low-calorie, low-sugar, low-carb type of snack with 130 calories, 4 grams of carbs, or 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein in it, Built.com is the place to go and check out all the different flavors. And now you can head over to Walmart in the pharmacy section and get yourself a box of Built Bars there, or head over to Sam's Club and pick you up a box of Built Bars as well. So whether it's brick and mortar store or go to Built.com, check out all their line of products and head over today to get your box of Built Bars. So, has AJ Griffin hit the rookie wall? Well, here's the thing about AJ Griffin. And, it's interesting in looking at his numbers over the last 6 games here. Griffin's minutes have gone down. So where he was playing about 21 plus minutes, his minutes over the last 6 games have gone down to about 18. And that's probably because he's kind of not played as well. So he's shooting 37.2% from the field over his last 6 games. His 3-point percentage over the last 6 games, 21.4%. He's averaging 6.5 points per game. He's averaging in his last 6 games a minus 2.2 as far as a plus minus goes. Now, one of the things that I thought was, would we see an increase and an uptick in the minutes played from AJ Griffin? And that's because of just the attrition of the NBA season, guys trying to stay healthy. I mean, look, this Hawks team has been ravaged by injuries. They're always, 1 or 2 players away. I mean, we don't know if John Collins is going to play tonight. I mean, he was out the last game, right? I mean, we're always fighting these injury things for the Atlanta Hawks. But I'm a little bit concerned about the fact that AJ Griffin, and maybe the best thing for him is getting to the All-Star break. Maybe the best thing that's going to happen to AJ Griffin is taking a few days off. And I know he's going to be in the NBA futures game and things like that. But, again, that's not going to be a high impact event. But certainly it feels like that the All-Star break is coming at a good time, because AJ Griffin has not played well of late here. And in these last 6 games, his shooting percentage has been dreadful. His 3-point percentage has been dreadful. And we've seen his minutes go down. And I'd like to see an uptick in the minutes from AJ Griffin. Get him a little bit more time off the bench. Look, if Bogey's not playing well, AJ Griffin should be in there. If some of your starters are getting hurt or banged up a little bit or nicked up a little bit, AJ Griffin should be in. And I want to see if he can handle a bigger minutes load. And look, as a rookie, when you're coming out of college, right, you're used to playing 35, maybe a little bit more, 38 to 39 games when you're in college and you're a player who advances in the NCAA tournament and things like that. So the idea of the fact that he's played, 55 games or whatever, to this point or whatever, you certainly, can expect to hit some type of wall when you have that kind of schedule. But this may be the perfect time for him to catch a break, because it hasn't gone well over the last 6 games. And maybe he's hitting a little bit of that rookie wall. So maybe the All-Star break, the fact that it comes 2/3 of the way through the season, maybe for a guy like AJ Griffin is certainly a benefit, and certainly, can help him out a little bit and maybe just kind of rest his legs a little bit. And again, the rookie or what the futures game or whatever like that's not going to be, a real toll on him, and he'll play, a limited amount of minutes. But just the idea of him getting some rest, because they're going to need him down the stretch. I mean, we're getting to the point with the Hawks where we're running out of games. And tonight is, I don't want to call tonight a must win, but if the Hawks lose tonight, they go to 3.5 games behind the Knicks, who are directly above them. And then again, when we get back from the All-Star break, Cleveland, Brooklyn, Washington, well, all of those teams are right around the same area as where the Atlanta Hawks are. The Cavs are certainly one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. No chance of catching them. But if Brooklyn's going to slide back a little bit, you got to handle your business against them. Hey, the Washington Wizards, they're a couple of games behind the Atlanta Hawks. Well, you start losing to them, and they're going to play 2 games at Washington. If you lose a couple of those games, all of a sudden now they start to pass you in the standings. So this stretch after the All-Star game is going to be big, but it all starts tonight with this team. And Griffin is a guy who, again, I don't know how much more of a workload he can handle, but I certainly would like to see him on the court a little bit more. I would certainly like to see his minutes increase as you get to the fatigue of players and guys that have played a whole bunch of games. But it does feel like that maybe he's starting to hit a little bit of that rookie wall, that his game is starting to slow down a little bit. And where I'd like to see his minutes increase over the last handful of games, his minutes have actually dropped down. He's actually even below his, minutes played per game. He's about 21 minutes per game. He's only been about 18 minutes in these last 6. So again, the All-Star game coming probably at a perfect point for AJ Griffin, but certainly this franchise is going to need him, down the stretch and need his productivity. And certainly they need him to get back to being able to shoot the three and certainly score some points coming off their bench, because I don't trust Bogey as much. Bogey had to play 31 minutes the other night in that Charlotte game. I don't know that I want him playing that many minutes, but maybe that's a symptom of the idea of AJ Griffin just kind of not playing well and kind of hitting that wall. I don't want to see Bogey's minutes increase, because now he increases his chance for being out and being injured and things like that. So AJ Griffin's going to be a big factor of what the Hawks team do down the stretch, what they end up doing down the stretch for this last, 1/3 of the season. All right, well, thank you so much for making Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery your first listen every day. Make sure you make Locked On Sports Today your second listen. Biggest stories of the day, instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you get all of your favorite podcasts from. We ask you to head over to youtube.com, put Locked On Sports Atlanta into your search browser. When you get there, hit that subscribe button, leave us a comment. Growing towards 6,000 folks, so we're about 5,500 right now, so be a part of our ever-growing community. We are free and available to download on all of your favorite podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your favorites from. We are also available on Roku and Amazon Fire. Check us out on those platforms as well. And then give me a follow on my back with you tomorrow. This has been Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery, Locked On Sports Atlanta.